Today, I'm bringing you a great conversation that I believe will serve you right where you are. What we talk about in this conversation today can help you wherever you are in your wellness journey. This is just two coaches sitting down, talking from our lived experiences in order to encourage you. This brand new friend, Erin Trier, is an expert in women's wellness and empowerment coach, revolutionizing the way moms prioritize their wellness and self-care. Specializing in women's health, Erin focuses on helping moms cut through the overwhelm, simplify the health process, and get intentional with tuning in to their unique bio-individuality. She has her master's in social work and certifications that are for women's health and hormones. She's the founder of the Empowered in Health podcast and has positively impacted numerous individuals with her real, raw, insightful content. Her deepest passion is to work with women on all facets of health and continue creating coaching programs, community, and brand partnerships that are by women and families, supporting women and families. Her mission is to empower moms to reclaim their identity and renew their strength by leaning into simple, sustainable systems and support. Through her unwavering dedication to growth and her innovative Empower method to coaching, Erin continues to leave an indelible mark on those she serves. As you can see, Erin and I have a lot in common, and we have a great conversation together. I love this new friend, and I know you will too. Let's get to it. Hey mama, are you overwhelmed by your full, blessed life? Do you feel stuck in the messy, mundane middle? Then I'm so glad you're here to take a breath. Hey, I'm Shan Wright, RN, holistic wellness coach, and a mom to four that went from perfectionism, control, and lots of anxiety to intentionally living through simple solutions and so much peace. If you are done with the stressed out life, hot mess express type of motherhood, then heat up that coffee again and let's live holistically well in the middle. Let's go. Okay, so I'm super excited to welcome another guest to the show. This is a new friend, a fellow podcaster. So Erin, welcome to the show.
Shan, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited for our chat today.
Yes, I am too, because we have a lot in common, as we just learned very shortly here, getting to know each other. So yeah, I think we have the same wavelength as far as how we look at wellness. So the listeners can get to know you and I can get to know you a little bit more. Share a little bit about your family, your kids, your husband, all that, where you live, and two things that are currently making your life less stressful.
Okay, great questions. So just to kind of give a quick background on me, my name is Erin Trier. I'm a mom of four. So my oldest is 13 and my youngest is 5. I have 2 girls and 2 boys.
Me too.
I love it. I love it. I live out in Park City, Utah with my husband, Dave. And we've been out here a little over or almost 8 years. We moved from the Midwest. I grew up a Midwest girl, lived in Chicago my whole life. And now we're out here in the mountains of Park City. And it's been such a blessing for our family. One of my kiddos is a medical kid. So he has a medically complex disorder called tuberous sclerosis complex. So that's really been a big focus inside our family of really understanding his unique needs, his health story, and how to really support him as he grows older. And, you know, one of the things that really I'm passionate about as a busy mom, but also as a health and wellness coach, is just the well-being of moms in the family and how much that really matters. So I'm a women's health coach. I work primarily with women that are kind of in that postpartum age range up into midlife health, and really empowering women to understand, like, how do you really truly nurture your longevity with intention based on your bio-individual health journey? And that's the message that I like to share most in the work I do, because I think oftentimes in the wellness space for women, and really in motherhood too, like, we get painted this picture of this is how it should be, or this is how it needs to look. And I want to empower women to understand that it's going to look different for you and your family and your journey. And you need to give yourself permission to allow it to be that way, to really embrace that, because that's really what's going to serve you best in the walls of your home, but also as your health evolves over time. So that's kind of where my passion lies. That's the work I do. And, you know, I'm also a podcaster. Like Shan said, I have a podcast called Empowered in Health, where I talk about all things wellness, from the mental and emotional side to hormone health and getting educated about our evolving wellness, to how do we really get strategic with the practices that we're doing daily when it comes to our habits and so much more. And so for me, 2 things, you said 2 things that are not causing stress in my life. What did you say?
That
Can you
are
tell me?
that's
Okay.
making life less stressful.
Okay. Two things that are making life less stressful for me right now. The first is finding a way and making the time to prioritize my own self-care in some capacity every single day. And I'll talk a little bit about that in our conversation, but that looks different every day. Every single day, it's a little bit unique, and that's okay. But I've learned ways to really make sure that I'm prioritizing what it is that I need to fill my cup. That's number one. Number two is really getting open and honest and communicating as authentically as I can with my husband. Really making sure that he understands where I'm at mentally and emotionally as a mom and as an entrepreneur, and making sure that we're constantly talking about what are the needs happening inside of our house, what are the needs that my son particularly has, and what are the needs that we each individually have in order to show up in our life in a way that we know we want to. We've learned a lot in our time as parents over the past 13 years. And one of the things we've learned the most is how much we really truly have to prioritize time as individuals so we can show up as our best for our family, for our marriage, and in our work. And so those are the two big things that I would say that are making life feel a little bit less stressful. Self-care time for me and open communication with my husband.
I love that so much. So a couple things I want to point out, which we'll talk about, but you said that each person's journey is individual and unique to that person. And I love that so much because we are, my audience, we are educated, we're high achievers, we're well educated, and we look at all this research and we're like, this person said this and this person said this and this expert says this. Which way do I go? And it's so I love that we know our own self best.
Yes.
And our creator knows us best too. So to really look into what is going on in my body, yes, this expert said this and this doctor said this, but really taking that step back and having that reflection time and that awareness and listening to your body because it's all individual. So good. And then the communication with your husband, that is also so good because I think, you said 13 years. So how long have you been married?
We've been married, what year is it? 2025. So we've been married almost 16 years.
Okay. We're coming up on 14 years. So it's like you think you only have that first year, like this is when we're going to learn everything. It's the hardest year. And it's like, no, you are learning the whole time. Every single day, you can continue to learn and get better at communication. You don't have to be perfect right away. And actually, you're not going to be, and you have to continue to work on that skill of communicating. Right. Yes, you know your spouse, but I love, you were like, we have to know our needs and communicate them. I was just talking to a client the other day, and that's her issue right now. Her main issue is not being able to communicate her needs to her husband in the way that he really understands them.
Right.
She's saying it, he's not hearing it, and therefore she's not getting the support she needs and she's burnt out. And I think it really comes down to that communication, but also you're communicating about like everything, and you're just having this constant flow of learning that other person because you're a team. You have to, you need the other person. You can't some people unfortunately have to do it alone, and I hate that. But to have that person there, you have to be on the same page. I think that's so good.
Yes, so important.
Okay, so I would love to know your story. And you have 4 kids and married for a while. So what challenges have you been through in your life that have led you to this place today where you're podcasting, you're sharing all your wisdom, you have your coaching, and you're just pouring out to other women while being a busy mom yourself? What led you to that point? And just share some of those challenges along the way that you've overcome.
Such a good question. And I have a pretty long, complex story, so I'll kind of keep it as concise as I can. But I will say one of the most profound shifts for me in my life journey, if you will, was really stepping into motherhood. It was much more of a shift than I really anticipated it would be. Mm-hmm. I read the books, I talked to my friends, although I was one of the first people inside of my friend groups to kind of have kids. So I didn't really necessarily have mentors or people that had gone through it before me. So I was kind of navigating a lot of it with a handful of people that have done it, but I really just relied on, what were my doctors telling me and what were the books saying and how could I anticipate really stepping into motherhood based on what I was, learning over time through resources and things like that. But once I actually stepped into motherhood and I realized like the mental and emotional shifting, how different I felt in my body, how I literally felt like a totally new person, a lot of that was very jarring for me. And every time I had gone through pregnancy and postpartum, every single journey was very different. Some of them were a little bit easier than others, and some of them were super intense. And so I had some seasons where I went through some pretty significant mental and emotional hurdles with postpartum anxiety and depression. And, during the season of continuing to grow our family, that's also when we started to uncover our son's genetic disorder and his diagnosis. So there was a lot of added stress alongside trying to figure out, who am I in this journey of becoming a mom? And how do I really take care of all of these kids? In that season, I also was, doing a lot on my own because my husband was traveling most of the time. And, in the beginning of my journey, we were close to family. But once we moved out to Utah, which I had talked about, we were on our own. I was really, truly on my own, trying to build a community and trying to figure out how to really step into this new level of identity. And so a lot of what I've learned over time is the power of really being authentic and vulnerable in your experience and really normalizing the mental and emotional weight that we carry as moms and as busy women. Mm-hmm. And that was really one of the things that started to help me more than anything. And it's what really started to lead me into this idea of health coaching and supporting women and being honest about our experiences, because I learned over time, the more I shared my story and the more vulnerable I was about my experiences, the depth of the mental and emotional component to my postpartum journey, and just really how isolated I felt, how lonely I felt, how lost I felt. Like the more I shared it, the more women would say, oh my gosh, me too. Thank goodness I'm not the only one that's really experiencing these levels of just total turmoil in a lot of ways, right? Mm-hmm. And so I am so grateful for the connections I've been able to make through just sharing more of my story, because it's given me more connection and community, but it's also built the same for other women. And so that's what's led me into, the coaching work that I do and how passionate I am on serving women on a lot of different levels when it comes to their inside out health and wellness, and really talking about the importance of this holistic practice. I know, Shan, one of the things we were discussing before we hit record today was how we like to really focus on mental, emotional, and spiritual wellness. I know that's a big part of your mission, and that's a big part of mine, because wellness as a whole is so much more than how are we moving our body? How are we strategically and intentionally trying to fuel ourselves for energy with food, et cetera? Like, it's so much bigger, wider, and deeper than that. And I've learned that firsthand over time. And so in what I do now through podcasting and coaching, I really just like to normalize all the pieces to our health journey, right? What does it really truly feel like? Where is the mixed messaging coming from? How do we really start to discern what speaks to us in our individual health journey? And how do we really serve our longevity well so we can be around for all of the incredible things that we're building with our families and in our work and in our marriages? Like, that's what I want for everyone, is how do you really show up in a way that feels fulfilling, in a way that feels energizing, and in a way that helps you stay present with where you are in your current season. And, one of the things that was a big part of my story in the beginning was I was trying to do a lot by myself before I got to this place of really opening up and communicating and being vulnerable and getting connected to places that I could be honest and things like that. Like, I was doing a lot on my own, and I was trying to manage it all by myself. And it led me to so many intense places of burnout and more feelings of just, inadequacy and not feeling like enough and all of that. And, a huge part of what I had to start to dive into, in addition to these other pieces of just building community, was also getting really rooted in my faith and really starting to prioritize that in my life and making sure that I was building that muscle alongside these other pieces to wellness. And so, there's a lot there, but in the end, like, I serve with intention and in this deep way because I've been through it. And I just want other women to really know that they're not the only ones and that they're not alone.
That's a bell, another bell, but not because someone else needs you, because you need you. If you're a nurse, caregiver, healthcare professional, always helping others and not ever helping yourself, now is the time to take a look at your own stress level. What is stress doing to your body internally, externally? How is it coming out? Where is your stress? And are you headed to burnout? Are you already in burnout? Don't ignore the signs and symptoms that are coming up all the time because you're caring for others and not yourself. Our stress builds, and then one day we realize we're in burnout. And that is why I'm offering you a free stress assessment call. This is a short, personalized session, one-on-one, where we're going to uncover your current stress level, what's actually causing it, and your next best step to get relief. You don't have to figure this out alone. You don't have to wonder, am I in burnout? You don't have to wonder if I'm headed there fast. Go right now to bit.ly/stress assessment call. Let's catch the stress before it leads to burnout. Go now and book your call today. Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that. I love that you ended on that. Like, I know there's a lot more to your story, but you're like, they're not alone, because I was writing down notes. And one thing I wrote was just the whole fact that you want to normalize being authentic in your experience and sharing it.
Yeah.
And instead of hiding behind it, because when you hide and you isolate, it increases the anxiety and the depression. And I recently, it was in the fall, Christmas time-ish, and I posted a reel about loneliness.
Yeah.
I was legit crying, and I did this reel, and it was only because God told me to record it. I don't typically record myself when I'm crying, but I was like, I don't know, why am I pressing record on the video when I'm sitting here driving and just crying? And then later, as I was processing those feelings and those thoughts, it was like, you're feeling lonely, and it's because of this. Share that. And so I looked it up. 72% of women feel lonely.
Yeah.
And it's not a message that you hear often. And obviously, if we're feeling lonely, to share something is going to draw that me too, that community. Yeah. And I had so many messages afterwards. I had so many people reach out to me. And sometimes, it was like privately, they didn't even want to say like they feel lonely too, but they wanted to message me. We need the community. Yeah, let's just share our experiences. It doesn't even have to be I have the answers for all of this. Just share your experience. So I wanted to ask, when you are being authentic in your life experiences, how do you do that? That sounds like a lot of big words. How do you get to the point where you are authentic? What does that look like?
It's kind of multifaceted. I've spent a lot of my life trying to be someone that I thought other people would accept or wanted, right? And that included in motherhood, right? Like I had very much envisioned this picture of motherhood. I envisioned this picture of our family, and I had drummed up this dream life of how it was all going to go. And as I've grown into motherhood, I realized that pretty much all the plans I've had are not God's plans. And that's not really what real life is. It really is how your path is meant to be unfolded over time. And so part of it for me has been really surrendering and embracing that I really do not have control over exactly how my life is going to unfold. And instead, I have to get into this place of deep-rooted trust and embracing that my life is exactly the way it's meant to be, and it's being created the way it's meant to be, instead of like fighting against it. That's been a big part of my journey, because I've spent seasons where I've been frustrated. I've been angry. I've been, really isolated to the point where it kind of felt like, why me? Why us? Why is this our story? And I think regardless of what it is that you're experiencing in your own personal journey as a mom or in your family, like we all have some level of that, right? We all have some level of feeling like this is so different than what I imagined, or this is way out of my control and I don't know where to turn or how to get a grip on moving forward. And for me, that's been surrender, right? That's been embracing what's happening is for me and for our family, and trusting that. And so that's a big piece to overall authenticity for me. And then the second piece is just being really honest with naming how you're feeling in seasons of motherhood. Not everything is picture perfect. Not everything is rainbows. And I think sometimes in this connected world that we live in, while it's an incredible blessing, we can get really tricked into believing that there's these picture perfect lifestyles out there, and that's not real life.
Yeah.
And so the authenticity for me has been also really embracing and being honest about how do I feel in seasons, right? When I'm feeling frustrated, when I'm feeling, let down, when I'm feeling, overwhelmed, really sitting and naming those feelings and being honest, again, rather than fighting against them or trying to paint this perfect picture or putting on some sort of front around what I think I should be doing or how I think I should be acting or feeling. And instead just being honest about how I really do feel. Like that's been the second piece of authenticity for me. And I've learned over time that just being real about your experience and feeling what you need to feel inside of motherhood or inside your specific season or dynamic with your family or whatever it is one of the key gifts we can give ourselves inside of our own health journey. Because when we're fighting and we're trying to, control the narrative another way or paint a picture a different way because of what we dreamed up or what we feel like we need to do, it just really doesn't serve us. It really makes everything feel really inauthentic, honestly, and so much harder and such a bigger challenge. And so those are the two pieces for me that I've really tried to continue to work through and embrace over time. And it's slowly helped me get into this mindset of knowing that my life is happening for me. No matter how hard some days may feel, there's always something to be grateful for. There's always some level of learning or blessing in it. There's always something that I can continue to grow through. And as I've shifted into more of that growth mindset and seeing it all as a way to continue to learn and that it's happening for us for some reason, has really helped me stay in that authentic space.
I love that. Something you said about letting go of this perfect. I struggle with, or I'm a recovering perfectionist.
Me too. Me too.
Being that I have a lot of high achieving moms as audience, I think that can be a side thing of high achieving is perfection. You want to strive for something, right? Perform. And I think in that we lose who we really are because we're trying to achieve something and live up to something, this perfect image you said of motherhood even, and you lose yourself. And then half of it is because you don't even know yourself. You don't know who you are. You don't know. We don't sit down enough to reflect, what am I feeling? And I always like to say feelings are messengers. And if we're not asking them what the message is, then we're just having all these feelings build up, and they're telling us something, and they're there to help us live out our experience and be authentic in our experience, but we're not listening. So I love that. Another thing that you said is, I wrote down this note and I'm trying to think of what I meant by it, but okay. You were saying about having this experience and understanding your feelings, knowing that your experience might not look like the mom next to you, and maybe they're going through something really, really hard. You're thinking of them and thinking of how they're experiencing their motherhood. And then yours like, well, I'm feeling a lot of things and I feel even stressed out, overwhelmed, burnt out, but that's nothing compared to what she's going through. So then we downplay our experience and don't reflect on it, aren't aware of it, aren't aware of what these feelings are doing to us inside, and they continue to build up. So my point was, what I wrote down was, don't downplay that it doesn't look like someone else's either, and think, they have it so much harder and I feel bad for them and let me help them and do all this stuff because I don't know how they're making it through each day. You're experiencing your own life too at the same time. Don't downplay just because you're just having trouble communicating with your husband. Don't downplay that. That's still something that you need to sit with and work through and be authentic in and be vulnerable. And so I think there's a lot there because we back to that perfectionism. We're like, well, it's not that bad and I can make it through and I can, and you know what I'm saying? That makes sense.
Totally. Yes. We've all been conditioned in some way to feel like we're just supposed to power through, right? Like that we just got to be strong for our families. We just have to show up no matter what for our marriages. And it's so easy to get into some of that comparison of, well, my situation isn't like their situation. And so maybe what I'm quote unquote complaining about isn't valid. And I want to give all women permission to say, like, your experience is valid no matter what. And women deserve to feel loved, seen, heard, and validated in their unique experiences, period. related to our motherhood journey, related to our health journey, related to what we're managing in our relationships and more. And one of the greatest gifts we can continue to build inside of the motherhood community is just that message of whatever you are experiencing is valid. And
Yeah.
I see you in it and I feel you in it. And even though my path is not identical and my adversity looks a little bit different, the feelings in some way, shape, or form are paralleled. They are all heavy in our own way. And
Mhm.
so we need to be giving women that support and that open communication around that, because it just helps us continue to embrace and move through whatever it is that we're managing.
Yes, love that. You said it much better than I did. Um, okay, let's talk about your mental journey through motherhood. And you were talking about postpartum anxiety and depression and that sort of thing. Is that in relation to being a medical mom? And share as much as you want about that experience too, and how you worked through those challenges.
So I would say, I've managed some level of mental and emotional adversity throughout every postpartum journey I've gone through. Like I
Mhm.
said, some were a little bit less than others. Some were more targeted towards different things. Like my first pregnancy, my husband and I were actually we moved abroad to Australia when I was 20 weeks pregnant. And so I went through the last 20 weeks of my first pregnancy and had my first baby completely on my own across the world with my
Wow.
husband. And that was a really interesting experience because it really pushed us into levels of growth neither of us had ever gone before, right? Like totally on our own, no support, having a baby in a different country, navigating a different healthcare system, all of those things. And it really was different for me because a lot of that was more focused around, I just felt especially alone or particularly
Yeah.
alone in that season. So that was why that particularly felt harder mentally and emotionally. But at the same time, in Australia, they have a totally different kind of focus for support for postpartum moms, which is tremendous. Like it was one of the greatest experience I had comparing it back to what my experience was in the United States, right? So
Wow.
when you have a baby there, you're staying in the hospital for at least 4 to 5 days after a typical birth. You have a lot of support, which is really tremendous. And that's what I needed in that season.
Yeah.
And then when I went home, like the doctors came to our house to do all of the well checks in the beginning, right? We didn't have to leave, which was really nice. And then one of
Yeah.
the other things they do is they very strategically set you up with a mother's group with other women right in your immediate community
Oh,
who also had babies at the same time. So you were immediately put into a community. You're immediately like breastfeeding at parks with other moms.
that
And like
is
you're immediately like,
amazing.
here's your community. This is your zip code. Here's who we're connecting with you or you with right now. And that was such a gift in that season of feeling really intense isolation and loneliness, on the other side of the world with just me and my husband going back to work. So here I was with my own, my first baby, just kind of by myself. And
Yeah.
so having that connection was huge. And then with all my other pregnancies, it was more so like just really losing identity and also trying to figure out the overall balance, if you will, of now I have multiple kids, right? And
Hmm.
now I'm, maybe back near my family, but I also am trying to unpack these other layers. And so with each subsequent pregnancy and those parts postpartum journeys, my mental and emotional health grew harder to manage, mostly because of the identity component. Like I just continued to feel more buried the more kids we had. I continued to felt more lost in who I was and what really filled my cup. And so
Hmm.
that was what I was really trying to figure out how to work through and manage, because I was totally losing myself and felt like I couldn't get a grip on what did I need and who was I beyond just mom, right? Who
Hmm.
was I beyond just taking care of these four beautiful babies? And as I already mentioned in my previous part of my story, like in this season of growing our family, we also slowly started to learn a lot about my son's medical disorder and his genetic disorder, his genetic diagnosis. And so right before his second birthday was when we first started to see seizures. And that was one of the first glimpses into understanding more of this diagnosis. And so as I was uncovering that, there was so much more that fell out of my control and so much more that I was trying to manage, from therapies and doctor's appointments and all kinds of testing and levels of things that we were trying to work through related to his diagnoses. And that piece of so much out of my control continued to really feed into the mental and emotional health journey that I was already managing, because during that season I was going through two more postpartums, moving across the country because we moved from the Midwest to Utah, again, isolated and on our own. And so I felt really in that place of isolation again. But this time I really knew and understood like how much I needed to build in some level of community. And so that was when I started to reach out to different moms groups and build more intentional friendships and really start to get connected to other people that were also managing medical diagnoses and figure out ways to make sure that I was intentionally working through places to have some sort of way to talk about exactly what it was that we were going through. So that was through like our local moms community, through our church, and again, like more connected communities through hospitals and things like that, where we were getting interventions with my son. But it's been a lot of up and down. And I think one of the things I like to share most about mental and emotional health is that there's so much imperfection in that. It's never going to be this perfect calculated A to Z journey, and it's not linear growth. And I like to make sure women really understand that there's some messiness involved in trying to work through that, and that's okay. Like the biggest thing that you can do is continue to find help, find resources, build community, and making sure that you're finding productive ways to speak through your experience and what you're managing on the mental and emotional side.
Yes. I think it's such the enemy's game and ironic, but when we're going through these periods of mental distress, we tend to isolate more. I'll just work through it in my house with my kids and all my issues by myself instead of going to the play date at the park because that seems like too much and they're not going to be able to understand and So how do you get yourself out in the community? I know you said moms groups, but speak a little word of encouragement to the mom that feels that way. And she's dealing with a lot. And then she's letting the little things, for example, well, what if I have to discipline my kid when we're at the play date and this other mom doesn't, or the other moms don't approve of how I'm disciplining, or that I gave my kid like junk food for their lunch. And like, she's thinking of these little things that are keeping her isolated, but really there's a lot under there. Like speak a word of encouragement to her to like, community is the answer.
Community is the answer. And you're bringing up very real topics of conversation here, Shan, because I think, we as women, we just get into these modes of feeling like we're in comparison or somehow we're going to be judged, right? We're going to be judged for how we parent. We're going to be judged for our feelings and our emotions. We're going to be judged for our decisions in some way. And, I've learned the hard way in certain seasons to be transparent about how the more I wanted or chose to kind of shrink back and be isolated, the harder everything felt. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that I really had to start doing in my life was reminding myself and remembering like how much my cup was filled when I went into community groups where I really felt supported and encouraged and like I could be transparent about my experience. Mm-hmm. And that's really what led me to finally start to consistently get out. Was I knew how it made me feel. Like I would remind myself of those moments. And if I never was in that place yet, I would really try to remind myself of how much I could also maybe bless another person through my story, through my experience, through my feelings. Like maybe there was someone else out in the community that was thinking and feeling exactly how I was and needed some encouragement from my end, right? So some of it was remembering how connection would fill my cup. But the other side was also thinking about, well, how could I maybe also help another mom? Right? How could we like mutually, talk about our experiences and really encourage one another? And so, I'm a giver, I'm an Enneagram 2, people pleaser, all of those things. And a lot of what I've had to work on in my own journey is boundaries and really making sure that I'm prioritizing my self-care. At the same time, my brain always is thinking about how can I also help other people? How can I serve in my community too? How can I support other moms and families too? And so that was the other side of the coin of trying to really think through like, gosh, I feel isolated and alone here and I don't really want to go, but what if there's another way that I could help encourage another person today by going and being in community? And how is that potentially also going to fill my cup? And 9.9 times out of 10, like it always made me feel better. Like it always provided some new clarity. It always provided some new level of connection or some new level of that me too feeling and less isolation. And so that's my best advice for the mom that's maybe sitting and thinking like, I just have so much going on. I have this huge mental checklist. I don't want to go out into the community and feel like I could potentially be judged in some way. I want to challenge you to flip the script a little bit and think about like how not only could you have your cup actually filled, but how you could also maybe bless another mom who maybe feels like you in some way, who needs you to connect with as well.
Yes, that's so good. I was going to ask you, what are some practical tools and strategies that a mom could work through? But then I was thinking you'll probably answer that if I ask you about your Empower Method coaching strategy.
Yeah.
So share with us what that is, your way of coaching and helping moms through just their journey, their wellness journey.
Yeah, that's it's something I've been slowly formulating over time. I started wellness coaching a little over a decade ago. I started more in the network marketing space, and I've started to build more of my own brand over the past 4 years or so.
It's
And
also something we're similar in, but
yeah,
I'm like years after you, but
we're
very similar.
all learning, right? All learning and growing along the way, and that's kind of the gift, right? We're all on our own path. That's what I love most about entrepreneurship and also podcasting and connecting with amazing women like you, Shan, is like we're always learning some new nugget of something along our unique path, no matter where we are. And so the Empower Method has been a slow evolution of how I really want to empower women to think about taking care of their health. And so it starts with, embracing mind and body literacy and really understanding what that means. And so it's learning more about your physiology, learning more about how your energy ebbs and flows every single day based on our cyclical nature as women. We have a cycle, right? And with that comes a difference in energy, a difference in mood, a difference in what we're able to really manage day to day. And so we talk about what does that look like? How do we start to really understand our unique physiology, and how does that essentially change the lens we're looking through when it comes to prioritizing our habits and prioritizing our health and so much more. And then we kind of work into mastering the art of imperfect balance and how taking care of our health, being a mom and parenting, our marriages, like it's always going to be this imperfect balance. And I like to empower women to remember, like, this is not about balancing your life. It's about figuring out what your needs are and figuring out a way to balance your needs. Like, we're not trying to strive for a balanced life. That's not realistic. That's not the goal. Instead, we're working through what are my needs through understanding my physiology and then trying to figure out a way to imperfectly address those needs in different capacities of my wellness journey, right? From mental and emotional health to spiritual health to our lifestyle and our environment and so much more. And then we kind of get more into how do we build intentional habits that are actually hormone supportive for our longevity? How do we build sustainable routines? And what does that look like? How do we get into this understanding of welcoming a cleaner lifestyle and learning about like how things in our environment affect how we feel day in and day out? From there, we kind of talk more about the power of community and the power of continued refinement, no matter what, right? Like that this is an ever evolving journey. And so the Empower Method is just this holistic health practice where we start with ourselves and then we build in very intentional habits and routines and practices that really speak to our individual lifestyle, whatever season we're in, whatever energy level we're at. Like, it's totally different. And this is a lens of knowledge I wish I would have had at the beginning of my motherhood journey, because so much of what I was trying to do for my health in the beginning was based on the messaging of like just getting back to who you once were, right? Body wise, mind wise, all the things. And that's not realistic for women. Like, once we step into motherhood, we evolve into a totally new person and a new identity. And so for me, I personally can't stand the messaging of let's get back to where we were. We're not going back. We're not meant to go back. We're meant to step forward boldly and evolve in this way that serves our longevity for who we're becoming as a mom, as a woman over time. And so that's really in a nutshell, like what I teach in my practice. And I like women to focus mostly on the basics of health, right? Things like making sure you're getting adequate sleep, make sure that you're hydrating, make sure that you're really figuring out what are the things that fill your cup with intention from a health standpoint. And then just giving yourself permission to let that look different every single day and speak to you as an individual in whatever season you're in. And so it's been such a gift to walk alongside so many women in different capacities and different seasons, and really just be this voice that normalizes that our health evolves over time. And so our health habits and routines and the way we take care of ourselves should also evolve over time as well.
Okay, mic drop. I was going to ask you questions about that, but I was like, nope, you just said it all. It's so if you rewind and listen to that again, all of that, so good. I don't even need to ask you follow up. But I would like to ask you how people can get in touch with you, maybe tap into the Empower Method with you, find your podcast, all that.
So my website is erintrier.com. I actually have a free optimizing your energy PDF and stuff on there that you can go and grab if you want to kind of figure out what are some basic health habits and things I can start to focus on or really get in tune with in order to really nurture your wellness with intention. I also do free coaching sessions as a startup opportunity. If anyone's interested in that, you can get the information on my website as well. And then I'm mostly on Instagram at Erin K. Trier. Would love to connect with you there, talk more about your story. I'm a total open book where I share, about my unique health experience and just what I've managed in motherhood and beyond. But I love connecting with other women, hearing their stories, and just helping be a resource to point you in the direction of what's going to really serve you. Whether that's coaching or, some other opportunity and some other place that I can intentionally connect you to, I would love the opportunity.
Oh, that's so good. Thank you, Erin. That was amazing. Thanks for all those amazing resources. And I encourage you, go find Erin and connect with her in some way. And thank you so much for being here, sharing your wisdom.
Thanks for having me. I'm so grateful for you. This was an awesome conversation.
Hey, Wellness Warrior. I pray that blessed you. And if so, it would bless me big if you would write a 5-star review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Not only would this make me super happy, but it will allow for others to find this show too. Also, I love to chat over on Instagram, so make sure to take a screenshot, share to your Instagram stories, and tag me at @TheShanWright so I can see it and we can keep chatting and bring other moms to chat with us. Until we get to chat again, mama friend, may the Lord's face shine upon you and give you peace.